Imagine facing entities so terrifyingly unstoppable that the Foundation's best efforts barely hold them back, if at all. From a statue that kills when you blink to cosmic horrors that could unravel reality itself, these anomalies redefine danger at every turn. Let's start small with a seemingly simple sculpture whose containment depends entirely on one rule: never break eye contact, SCP-173. The sculpture SCP-173 is either the simplest or most terrifying SCP you'll ever meet, depending on how fast your blinking reflex is. This Euclid-class sculpture doesn't move when it's being watched. Its entire containment depends on constant line of sight. Break eye contact even for a fraction of a second and it snaps necks or strangles victims instantly. Basically, it's a deadly game of don't blink. Before you dismiss it as a spooky story, hear me out. SCP-173 is literally a statue made of concrete and rebar, but it's alive, hostile, and incredibly fast. The Foundation's containment procedures are disturbingly precise. At least 3 people enter, and 2 must keep unbroken eye contact at all times while the door locks behind them. They even coordinate their blinking to avoid giving SCP-173 any chance to move. It's like watching a statue that moves only when you look away, and kills if you blink wrong. Here's the kicker: its containment isn't about locks or cages. Its immobilization depends entirely on human perception. If no one's watching, it moves, kills, then freezes again once observed. This limits its threat strictly to the containment chamber. The danger is intense but localized. Slip-ups occur inside, but SCP-173 can't become a global catastrophe. It's the SCP's first and most iconic entry, inspiring countless adaptations and the infamous don't blink mechanic in fan games. A simple idea, look away and die, made into an existentially nerve-wracking scenario. But if a blinking statue is unsettling, wait until you meet SCP-096, the Shy Guy, whose threat doesn't care if you blink at all. SCP-096. The Shy Guy, SCP-096, is one of the scariest SCPs because once triggered, nothing can stop it. Its defining feature is uncontrollable violence if anyone sees its face, not just in person, but even in photos or videos. This isn't a temper tantrum, it's a relentless rage driving SCP-096 to chase its target across any distance or barrier. Before you dismiss it as another angry monster, hear me out. The Foundation classifies SCP-096 as Euclid, but its containment challenges raise big questions. It's a tall, emaciated humanoid with pale, nearly translucent skin and grotesquely long limbs. Usually it's docile, pacing quietly in a steel cell, but once a face image is viewed, it covers its face and panics for a bit, then switches into SCP-096-1 mode, an all-out chase. Here's the kicker: while chasing, SCP-096 ignores walls, locked doors, vehicles, anything. No physical barrier can hold it off. It moves at speeds far beyond human ability. Sightings report it tracking victims kilometers away in minutes. It always finds the viewer, no matter where they run. When it reaches its victim, it kills brutally, then calms down. There's zero known way to stop this once it starts. The containment problem is brutal. Lock SCP-096 up all you want, but the real threat is the images already out there. In the age of smartphones and social media, stopping every photo or video from being seen worldwide is impossible. Every new glance risks sparking another deadly hunt. That means global info security is a frontline defense, but even Foundation censorship can't guarantee total suppression. Threat-wise, SCP-096 stands apart because its danger is info-driven, a memetic nightmare as much as a physical threat. Its violent kills from leaked images push it close to something worse than Euclid. If you think relentless rage across continents sounds bad, wait until you meet SCP-106, the Old Man. SCP-106, the Old Man, SCP-106 is a walking nightmare that breaks every rule of containment. Officially classified as Keter, this decomposing humanoid looks like something dragged up from a crypt, and it leaves destruction in its wake wherever it touches. Its defining trait, contact with SCP-106, causes the immediate corrosion and decay of any solid matter, eating through steel, concrete, and flesh alike. That means standard containment protocols, walls, reinforced cages, even electronic traps are basically useless. But here's where it gets truly horrifying. SCP-106 doesn't just kill and move on, it slips into a non-Euclidean pocket dimension connected to our world through any surface it chooses. Victims it captures are dragged into this nightmarish labyrinth where time seems to lose meaning. There, it tortures and torments them endlessly. Physical wounds compounded by psychological torture, creating a cycle of anguish that far outlasts any immediate damage. Some unfortunate captives are returned altered or broken, becoming unwilling hunters themselves. Containment is a maddening paradox. SCP-106's corrosive touch gradually eats through its holding cells and security measures, measures, degrading anything designed to keep it in. Meanwhile, its intangible ability to phase through walls and warp dimensions means you can't just lock it up and throw away the key. The Foundation's grim solution is the recall protocol, which involves deliberately injuring human lures, often causing them serious pain, to emit agonizing sounds that attract the old man back into captivity. Imagine a containment procedure fueled by human suffering as bait. That's containment turned on its head. SCP-106 isn't just a predator, it's a sadistic tormentor that extends its threat beyond fatal contact into prolonged psychological and physical imprisonment. The cycle of decay and cruelty it embodies illustrates a containment nightmare where physical barriers give way to ethical compromise and endless vigilance. It's a living reminder that some horrors can't be locked away, but only postponed. But if you think corrosive old men are terrifying, wait until you meet the chilling seasonal monster hunting children year after year. SCP-466, the Yule Man. SCP-466, the Yule Man. If you think the idea of a serial killer is terrifying, imagine one who only appears on the coldest, darkest winter nights, targeting isolated families with young children. That's SCP-4666, known as the Yule Man, a Keter-class entity active for just 12 nights each year somewhere in the northern hemisphere. But here's the twist. This isn't a typical stalker. SCP-4666 mixes the creepy ritualistic vibe of a killer with a twisted take on the Santa Claus legend, delivering nightmares wrapped in folklore. Before you dismiss it as seasonal myth, the evidence is chilling. The Yule Man shows up only from December 21st to January 1st, visiting isolated rural homes covered in snow, especially those with kids under 8. Victims describe a tall, naked, elderly figure lurking outside. Yes, naked in freezing weather, watching children sleep through windows. Over several nights, families hear footsteps on the roof, notice strange smells, and then face the nightmare's climax. On the 12th night, SCP-4666 either tortures and kills the entire family or leaves gifts, twisted toys crudely made from body parts of abducted children. It's a dark parody of holiday magic where horror replaces cheer. The Foundation calls these Weihnacht events, documenting about 3 per year going back centuries, with roots in European and Scandinavian folklore. Containment? Forget it. SCP-4666 can teleport instantly across vast distances during its active nights, striking randomly anywhere in the northern hemisphere. This scattered seasonal pattern makes traditional containment physically impossible. The Foundation relies on global surveillance and rapid responses, but attacks often happen without warning. They can only react. Its ruthless focus on isolated families and ritualistic cruelty makes SCP-466 a localized but deeply traumatizing winter horror. Its Keter classification reflects partial containment failure. Time and place are known, but it can strike anywhere within that window. It's the ultimate winter nightmare, a merciless mythic figure who warps Santa Claus into something devastating and unstoppable. If the Yule Man gave you chills, wait till we explore the abyssal horror of SCP-3000 next. SCP-3000 Anantashesha. SCP-3000 is a colossal sea serpent lurking deep beneath the Bay of Bengal, and it's not your average oversized eel. This creature stretches between 600 and 900 kilometers long, basically an underwater continent, and it carries a mind-melting cognitohazardous effect that breaks anyone who gets too close mentally, leaving no reliable memory of the encounter behind. At first glance, this sounds like just a big scary sea monster, but here's the kicker. People who observe SCP-3000 suffer severe amnesia, paranoia, and hallucinations. Witnesses lose entire chunks of memory, often forgetting they even saw the beast. This makes it impossible to document properly or develop solid containment procedures. The Foundation can't even be certain what they know about SCP-3000 is true, because the entity erodes the very knowledge keeping it contained. Physically containing something this vast is absurd. There's no cage big enough to hold a serpent that dwarf whales and spans hundreds of kilometers along the ocean floor. Instead, the Foundation relies on remote monitoring and a carefully controlled relationship with the creature's secretions. Those secretions are paradoxically essential for making amnestics, binding the Foundation into a symbiotic relationship with the very cognitohazard that threatens to unravel them. But here's where it gets truly sinister. The lethal mechanism isn't just the jaws and size capable of devouring submarines or ships. The real threat is the slow mental erosion SCP-3000 causes. Memory loss and paranoia can degrade operational security, cause mistakes in containment protocols, and lead to a cascading collapse of information integrity. enemy. Imagine an entire Foundation task force forgets what SCP-3000 looks like or why it's dangerous because the creature's presence bends their minds until only fear and uncertainty remain. This blending of cosmic scale aquatic horror and psychological collapse makes SCP-3000 one of the most metaphysically terrifying entities the Foundation faces. It's not just about brute force or contagious infection, it's about the unknowable slowly eating away at both mind and organization. The Foundation's paradox: they cannot contain the creature physically, and every attempt to understand it risks losing their grip on reality itself. If SCP-3000's cognitohazard spreads unchecked, the threat isn't just to ships in the Bay of Bengal, it's to the entire Foundation's ability to function, contain, and remember what must not be forgotten. But if you think that's bad, wait until we cover the flesh-infecting nightmare known as SCP-610, the flesh that hates. SCP-610, the flesh that hates. SCP-610 isn't just a flesh plague, it's a bioplague nightmare turning humans into grotesque, rapidly mutating biomass. Centered in the frozen wastelands near Lake Baikal, Siberia, early infection shows as rash and itching, but within hours the skin erupts in scar-like lesions that spread fast, warping bodies into monstrous forms with extra limbs, bloated heads, and weird branches of flesh growing off torsos. It's like their DNA gets rewritten, turning people into walking horrors. But here's the kicker: infection isn't the end. Some infected stop moving and root themselves like twisted trees, merging with buildings and landscapes, growing massive fleshy megastructures that consume everything. These aren't isolated cases, entire villages become organic blobs that pulse and grow. The infection spreads through direct contact, but the Foundation suspects tiny airborne particles might slip through, creating a terrifying containment paradox. They quarantine zones and burn anything infected, but the exact transmission method isn't fully understood. Miss a vector, and SCP-610 could spark a global pandemic. Because of its grotesque growth and unstoppable spread, SCP-610 is classified Keter, the Foundation's highest alert for uncontainable threats. They maintain a brutal military quarantine around the Siberian zone, using scorched earth tactics to incinerate infected humans and wildlife, keeping a strict no-contact perimeter, but containment is precarious. The flesh plague replicates biologically and self-propagates. While its transmission remains frustratingly unclear, the risk isn't just deaths, it's SCP-610 possibly taking over ecosystems, turning the planet into one vast, nightmarish mass of living flesh. Imagine forests no longer trees, but mutated flesh, villages turned into organic fortresses of infection, where the line between living organism and environment disappears. That's the scale of threat here. SCP-610 turns classic body horror into an existential crisis because barriers alone won't stop it. Destroy one host and another sprouts nearby. Contain one outbreak and roots spread underground. The Foundation's scorched earth tactics buy time, not safety. Fail and SCP-610 could eclipse localized outbreaks and become a force reshaping the biosphere. It holds a grim spot just below SCP-682 in danger rankings, a replicative plague that could rewrite life itself. But if you think a flesh plague is disturbing, wait until you hear about the hardest to destroy reptile that hates life just as much. SCP-682 hard to destroy. Reptile SCP-682 is the Foundation's ultimate nightmare, a massive reptilian predator that simply refuses to die. And not just tough, it's insanely smart, instantly adapting to whatever threats or damage come its way, making it near impossible to contain or kill. Before you dismiss it as just another indestructible monster trope, hear me out. SCP-682 isn't a dumb brute. It shows strategic thinking, has tried communicating with AI like SCP-079, and has an obsessive hatred for all life. Its sole drive seems to be destroying anything living, not for food or survival, but pure hatred, which, spoiler, is terrible if you're tasked with locking it down. It's officially Keter class, technically containable, but only in theory. Every time the Foundation tries killing it, SCP-682 evolves resistance to new tactics. Cross-testing it with lethal SCPs like SCP-409's crystallization just makes it shrug off attacks and get stronger. It's like every execution attempt is a bad investment. It's kept in a reinforced chamber filled with hydrochloric acid, a supposedly fitting home for this acid-bathed nightmare. But even when over 80% destroyed or corroded, SCP-682 can still move and attack like it's fine. It's basically trying to swat a cockroach with nuclear weapons. Spoiler, the cockroach wins, and the stakes keep rising. It's escaped containment at least 6 times, each breach a frantic emergency. There's serious fear it might break free permanently one day and wipe out all life on Earth. Its ability to adapt to any weapon or anomaly makes global defense feel hopeless. Some argue SCP-682 should be classified Apollyon, a threat so unstoppable it guarantees extinction if freed. The Foundation hasn't officially done this, probably because it's still caged, but debates rage on. It's the ultimate predator myth, smart, brutal, endlessly evolving, and fueled by pure hatred. Here's where it gets darker. SCP-682's cunning might let it team up with other anomalies or tech to cause apocalypse-level chaos. Not just a killer, but potentially a puppet master of destruction. In fan circles, SCP-682 dominates who would win debates, not just surviving, but learning how to dodge everything you throw at it. Great. Add that to the list. The evidence for SCP-682's threat is solid. Containment logs, breach reports, cross-test results, and interviews all confirm an adaptive apex predator no one can fully kill. While some data is redacted, the threat is clear. Compared to SCP-610's flesh plagues or memory-erasing SCP-3000, SCP-682 stands out since a single escape could trigger unstoppable global extermination. The Foundation's plan is basically just delaying the inevitable. But if you think SCP-682 is bad, wait until we get to the Devourer of Worlds hiding behind an old door. SCP-23117, the Devourer of Worlds, SCP-23117, is perhaps the purest embodiment of cosmic horror disguised as something utterly mundane, a plain wooden door stuck in the basement of an old Massachusetts brownstone. But what it hides behind that door is nothing short of apocalyptic. Locked away on the other side is a chained cosmic entity so vast and malevolent it's been labeled the Devourer of Worlds. Imagine a god-level being whose appetite could swallow entire planets, and maybe even the universe. Before you roll your eyes at another just a door trope, hear me out. The Foundation's containment of SCP-23117 hinges not on high-tech barriers or armed guards, but on an ancient set of chains restraining this entity in an endless salt-flat dimension visible beyond the door. These chains, they are unraveling irreparably. The technology or ritual that forged them is lost to time, and every attempt to repair or replicate them has failed. The Foundation's own estimates peg final containment failure as inevitable, probably within 30 years or possibly less. What's truly chilling is the psychological containment that's taken precedence as the reality sinks in. Staff morale is plummeting, and many involved are kept deliberately in the dark or fed sanitized reports to avoid hysteria. The official protocols downplay the door's threat, while internal documents reveal the rotting hopelessness underneath. The paradox here is brutal. The physical door is easy enough to lock and guard, but the chains holding back this world-swallowing terror are slowly breaking, and there's nothing anyone can do. If the chains snap, the consequences are apocalyptic beyond comprehension. The entity will rise, unbound, consuming Earth, and possibly unraveling reality itself. The scale of destruction is so far beyond anything most SCPs pose that it defies normal containment strategies. It's a ticking time bomb wrapped in bureaucratic denials and desperate hope. Interestingly, SCP-2317's Keter classification, typically reserved for wildly dangerous but theoretically containable anomalies, feels like a psychological buffer. This isn't a creature the Foundation thinks it can hold forever, but one they hope to delay long enough to prepare for extinction. It's more Apollyon in spirit, an inevitable doomsday locked behind fragile chains and a creaky wooden door. Fans often tie SCP-23117 to mythic cosmic horrors like the Scarlet King, deepening the mystery and scope of its nightmare. Its bitter blend of cosmic inevitability and institutional denial makes it a uniquely tense presence. Even though all you see is a door, the real horror is the slow, unstoppable failure of what holds back the end of everything. But if you thought a chained cosmic terror is the peak of SCP danger, just wait until you meet the fiery apocalypse incarnate in SCP-001. When day breaks, SCP-001. When day breaks, SCP-001. When day breaks is the ultimate nightmare. Daylight no longer sustains life, it destroys it in the most grotesque way possible. After an apocalyptic event warped the sun's rays, any living thing exposed to sunlight doesn't just die, it melts into a sentient wax-like mass. This isn't extinction, it's a horrific transformation where victims continue existing as semi-conscious blobs of melted flesh that move, merge, and vaguely think. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. The sun itself, a cosmic constant humanity depends on, is now an unstoppable killer. The Foundation can't contain this because you can't contain the sun. There's no cage, no lockdown, no barrier strong enough to block sunlight globally. Makes no sense trying to corral a star. Traditional containment here is utterly meaningless. The effect is absolute. Within 24 hours, roughly 6.8 billion people died or transformed as the anomaly spread unchecked. Billions more animals and presumably plants shared the same horrific fate. fate. The entire biosphere dissolved into these oozing, waxy creatures wandering in the light, endlessly suffering. You're not dealing with death as an end, but eternal, liquefied existence, something that pulls survivors toward the light as if twisted salvation. The Foundation's response: reduced to archives and protecting tiny survivor enclaves underground or in shielded refugees. Containment is obsolete. Survival means clinging to darkness, an existential nightmare itself. Humanity trapped underground, slowly suffocating while daybreaks wax entities roam sunlit wastes above. The ecosystem, civilization, everything about life collapsed. Here's where it gets deeply unsettling. The sun is life's source, but here it's a vector of horror. The wax masses retain fragments of memories, emotions, and even spectral communication. They plead to be embraced by daylight, turning morning's comfort into cosmic terror. Exposure is forever, no quick death, just endless melting and mindless suffering. That obliteration of finality flips everything. It's a global extinction event you can watch, not forget, classified Apollyon for a reason. This is all containment systems failing at once, an apocalypse that cannot be stopped because containment isn't just impractical, it's conceptually irrelevant. The world isn't waiting for a breach, it's already breached. The Foundation archives stories and survival strategies but can't undo a sun that liquefies life itself. Community reactions capture why SCP-001 When Day Breaks terrifies. Fans imagine survivors hiding in underground bunker cities, debating if endless underground life is living or limbo. Some muse on madness caused by prolonged darkness. Others horror compare the wax creatures to a new life form inheriting the planet. Theories about escapes, deep oceans, space colonies are met with grim reality. Nothing shields from daylight's wrath. The narrative power here is strong. Unlike SCPs with complicated mechanisms or theories, When Day Breaks embraces pure cosmic horror, an unexplainable, unstoppable transformation turning daylight's fundamental rule on its head. The Foundation is a remnant, chronicling a world lost, with billions dead within a day marking the event's scale. So this is the ultimate horror. SCP-001 When Day Breaks forces us to confront the ultimate containment paradox. The object we know best, the sun, becomes the enemy we cannot cage or block. And it doesn't just kill, it melts everyone into an endless nightmare. If you thought other SCPs were bad, this isn't a lurking shadow or caged monster. This is apocalypse realized, a global extinction in permanent motion. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.